So this video is going to cover everything you need to know about getting lists from Apollo.io. I'm going to cover the features they have, which of them you should actually be using. I'm going to cover keyword searches, industry searches, job title searches, and everything else to make sure that your lists are perfect and dialed in. So we're on the Apollo main screen now, and I always go to the people section. I don't go to the company section, and the reason for that is we want to just directly get people's email addresses, which you can do on the people space. So let's get straight into the different filters here. The first one is lists. This one you can use if you have sort of pre-existing lists on Apollo and you want to exclude them or include them. That's an option there. Persona, we don't really use this one. You can basically create custom personas, but I'm not a fan of this. This one here, email status, is really important. You want to put this as verified. Now, the reason why you want to put it there is because obviously you want to avoid bounces, right? If an email address is unverified, when you send an email to it, then it's going to bounce from the email server, and your deliverability is going to be harmed. Now, it's important to note that you should actually be double verifying your data. So you don't just want to put this filter here and then everything's safe, because this might include what's called catch-all domains on these lists here. So we've seen a lot of companies here at ScaleSprint that we've worked with. They've just put on the filter here. They think they're good. They get the list, but then they start getting these crazy bounce rates, and it's because they don't double verify with an external tool that's outside of Apollo, right? So you want to use Never Bounce, Million Verifier, or basically any email verification tool. The next one here is job titles. And if we go to the first section here, include, this is the one I always use. I don't really use the one called management level or departments and job function, simply because I just want specific job titles. So I go to this one here. First of all, you don't have to be redundant when you're putting in your search here. So you don't have to put in CEO and Chief Executive Officer. Apollo knows that you mean Chief Executive Officer if you put in CEO. So you don't have to do that. I see people wasting time putting in all different permutations of every single job title to make sure they expand their reach, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's also important to note here that if you want a specific sequence of letters or words in your search, you have to put it in parentheses, right? Because if you just put in CEO, it's also going to include assistant of CEO, for example. So if you want specifically just CEOs, you have to put it in parentheses. And in that case, you'd actually have to put in also chief executive officer in parentheses, because it's going to literally take what you say. But again, it's important to note that if you really want to avoid that happening, which in many cases you do, you have to be a bit more careful about your job search there. A way to avoid that also is to exclude. So you can exclude specific words here in the job title. So it could be, junior, could be a good word to sort of exclude. Include people with similar job titles is a feature they have. I'd recommend not using this unless you have to really expand your reach, because it's just going to include a bunch of people and you don't really have control over it. So yeah, and again, there's also management level and departments and job function, but I hardly ever use that. The next one is people lookalikes, which I also don't use. Actually, I haven't even tried this. I think it sounds a bit silly, but maybe it works. I'm not sure. I can see it's in a beta version at the moment, so who knows? Maybe it works well. The next one is the companies section. So you can put in specific companies that you want to find employees at. The feature we use here is this one, which is include a list of companies. So you can paste in domains that you want to actually find. You want to find people at those specific companies. And this is great because sometimes we have clients and they have a very specific request. Like, let's say they want to find 3D printing companies, like CEOs and founders of 3D printing companies. If you just put that in as a keyword on Apollo, it's probably going to be all over the place. So you can find like specific directories and then use a custom scraper to scrape the directories and then paste the domains inside of Apollo. And then you can sort of get an accurate search and find the people at these companies. You can also exclude a list of companies. So again, if you have a blacklist, if you have people you've already reached out to, you can paste in the domains here and you can exclude them from the search. So great feature. Next one is company lookalikes. This is very similar to Ocean.io. I think Ocean.io has a superior lookalike system. So if you really want company lookalikes, you should just pay for Ocean.io. Location is obviously self-explanatory. You can put in different locations here. Remember to put account HQ if you're looking to find companies based in a specific country. Because if it's just contact, it could be a person based in a different country, but the company is really based in this country. So you just want to make sure that you're a bit careful with which one of these you choose. Employee counts, this is also pretty self-explanatory here. This is not super accurate because this is self-reported data from LinkedIn, so limited how accurate it is, but it's still good to put in here. It's also the most accurate sort of way of determining revenue, especially if it's in a country where revenue is sort of private, it's not shared, and so this can be a way to sort of indirectly determine revenue of a company. Industry and keywords, you can put in different this one is the industry section here. So you can put in industries, and this is also very much like employee counts, inaccurate because it's self-reported. So you really don't want to over-rely on this. If you put construction, you could be getting something crazy. If you put in marketing and advertising, you could be getting something crazy. It's like completely all over the place. So I'm not a huge fan of the industry section. It can somewhat help like narrow the scope of a really broad search, but do not over rely on this because your outbound is not going to work if you do that. Um, and then also you have the keyword section here. So specific keywords are going to be associated with each company on Apollo, and so you can put in the different keywords here. Again, it's important to note that this can really give you mixed results. What I actually recommend is using ChatGPT and really prompting it well, and telling it to give you specific keywords and exclusion keywords to put in here, right? So you don't just want to guess at this; you want to actually try and use ChatGPT to find the best keywords and exclusion keywords. Um, to dial in your search here. What we also do is we go a step further. We use clay.com to pre-qualify all the leads. So even if we have good keywords and stuff, we'll still have AI basically scan the company description and website of every company on the list we get from Apollo to make sure that they actually fit our ideal customer profile. So I'd recommend you do the same to using clay.com for that. Market segments. This is also some sort of, again, way to sort of segment the market that they have. Very much like industry. It's not super accurate, but it can help you dial in the list. They also have these codes here you can use. Same concept. AI filters. This is not a feature we have used. So yeah, I can imagine this is basically where you put in an AI prompt and it helps you dial in the targeting, but it's basically just using all the same data that's up here. So it's very much just a sales, sort of a sales thing they do at Apollo, is my guess. They put in these new features to make it look cool, but it's all the same old thing. Buying intent is a terrible feature. I would never use that. Then there's some stuff here: scores, owners, territories, not something we use. Technologies is interesting. I believe this data is actually imported from Built With, which is sort of a tool that finds technology that different companies are using. So yeah, that's a specific provider that I think Apollo is leveraging for this. So you can put in different things here, whatever you're sort of looking for. So for example, if we're working with e-commerce companies, we might put in Shopify as a technology here, right? That's kind of how you can use that. So you can check here if they have the technology you're looking to find. Revenue, again, I think employee count is actually more accurate than revenue. So basically, you want to ask ChatGPT, like, I want to target this specific industry with this specific revenue. What employee count should I be looking for generally on Apollo to sort of hit in that range? Because this can be very inaccurate, the revenue estimation here. Funding is pretty self explanatory. You can just put in the funding stage you want them to be in. And I believe this is powered by Crunchbase, which is a provider that has a lot of funding data. And so, yeah, if you want to target, Series B, Series A, seed stage, angel, companies backed by angel investors, you can find everything here. So I find this to be decently accurate. So this is not a bad function to use. Although I will say it's a bit of an overused signal. As soon as a company gets funded, they get a ton of outreach because everyone uses that signal. So I'd probably just avoid that in most cases. Job postings. This is, you can put in different job postings that the company has made, and the job location and stuff like that. Signals. I don't like any of these signals here. Again, it's Apollo data is not the best when it comes to that sort of stuff. Website visitors, email opens, and person deleted is like Apollo specific stuff. We don't actually use Apollo for our sending, so it doesn't matter. So that's basically how you want to go ahead and use Apollo. So to sum up the most important things here, put in the verified thing here. Make sure that's checked out. Job titles, use the include version. Make sure that you are dialing in your search and you're not getting stuff that is based on a keyword and that's inaccurate, such as, again, assistant of CEO. That was one example. You can also use AI. You can use clay.com, use their AI to have it look through all the job titles and make sure that all of them are actually accurate. So that's a great hack if you just want to make sure that you don't even want to think about like all the exclusion stuff. You don't want to think about doing the parentheses and everything. You can just use clay.com to actually pre-qualify the job titles. Another one that's great. Again, as I mentioned, industry and keywords. This one is necessary. Employee count is necessary. Location is necessary. These are the actual needle moving filters on the software, and everything else is sort of sort of depends on your specific situation here. Technologies, funding, etc. So that is the Apollo guide here. Hope this was helpful. If you want to talk with us, if you want to have us build your lists and run your cold email system, I'll leave a link in the description to my calendar. Thanks for watching.